and they're breathing heavy, we'll see that. But what is concerning me is when I look here. So a lot of this is stool passing through the colon. So no, we've been eating and that's passing through. And all this in here is intestines, and the darker areas are just material and some air that we often get in the intestinal tract. This is bladder here. But what I'm looking at is kind of this circular structure right here. I could definitely see there's like sometimes, this is all the small bowel and that all gets kind of mixed up there in the abdomen together. But I feel like what I'm seeing here is I'm seeing kind of an area that just looks a little bit rounder to me than I would expect to see it. Okay. I can see tumors that affect the intestines. There are also lymph nodes, intestinal lymph nodes. It's hard to tell from an x-ray exactly what that, I know it's in the intestinal tract. And certainly I've also been suspicious of masses and then done further imaging and not seen them. Or it's turned out to be indeed a lymph node, which can be reactive because there's inflammation. It's not as obvious when he's on his back here, but I feel like I should see a more mixture of intestines kind of in the center here, which I'm not seeing. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of my plan for now. Is I know feline leukemia not an issue at this point, at least if virus being exposed to that. I've given him some fluids and I've given him something to help with vomiting. I will have lab work back within the next 24 to 48 hours. I want to look at that. What that will tell me about his white blood cell count. That'll tell me if any other organs are affected. And then that'll help us determine a plan going forward. If it's the type of thing, gosh, we are in fact suspicious potentially of some type of cancer. And where we go from there is there's certainly other more kind of additional imaging we can do, such as ultrasound, which gives us a little bit another way of imaging the GI tract and the size and structure of those organs. Some people can't do that, and they say, hey, listen, my cat has cancer, I'm not going to do anything else about it. How do we treat it? Or how do we keep them comfortable for as long as possible? And I'll put them on something like prednisone, which cats with one of the more common types of cancers we see is lymphoma. They can do very well, very comfortably for at least 6 months. If this is other possibilities of what this could be, if this is a lymph node, could we be seeing a lymph node that's just reacting because there's inflammation in the body? And I can see that with many different types of inflammatory diseases. Inflammatory bowel disease is just kind of the umbrella term for, hey, over time, the immune system is kind of overreacting for some reason. Many times they develop allergies to some of the proteins in their food. Sometimes we need to get these guys onto what's called a limited ingredient diet. So we use protein sources such as rabbit, venison, duck that are usually not out there in the regular cat foods. And I will often, that's often my suspicion when everything else looks normal, but there's one reactive lymph node in there. And sometimes I still put those guys on prednisone. So I certainly can see cats in this condition with reactive lymph nodes that have just a severe kind of immune-mediated inflammatory condition. But when I kind of see that, I certainly do get concerned about cancers, even though we're seeing, we're fairly young. Can I see it in young animals? I can't, unfortunately. Yeah. So I think what I'm going to do before kind of formulating more of like a short and long-term plan is I think I'm going to send out that lab work, see what that says. And as long as we have an email for you, which looks like we do, I will send an email within the next 24 to 48 hours with those results. And I'll say, hey, this is what our options are if we don't want to do any further diagnostics. And, just, hey, what do we do to, one, control the asthma and stop the vomiting? I put him on prednisone. But I just want to make sure that there's nothing else that would say, hey, we should do something else.
Okay.
So, all right. So I saw that and I kept trying to not see it. I'm like, oh.
And that was that white.
Yeah. There's definitely some reactive airways. It does not look like the other thing I will often look for is evidence of metastatic illness. And I don't, if we have cancer one place, could you have it, in the lung fields? I'm not